Welcome, our fellow lovers of love, and thank you for joining us on yet another excursion through the stream of consciousness down the river of tranquility to fill the lake of life with love.
And thank you for joining us. I'm Jazz, that's Lovey, and we're here tonight to talk about the wonderful world of dating. And aren't we glad we're not in that any freaking more? Good Lord Almighty.
I never did it very well.
Well, we did it well enough to eventually find each other, banging around in our kind of, we found each other eventually.
Eventually, yes.
And hey, if we'd have found each other sooner, it wouldn't have worked out because we weren't ready. We weren't the people. We weren't ready to become the people.
No, we weren't ready.
Because there was a quote that I came across trying to summarize kind of the thoughts of tonight's show. And it's Shannon Adler. One of the greatest regrets is life being
in life
is being what others would want you to be rather than being yourself. And as someone who lived with anxiety disorder, who lives, lifetime, you spend your life trying to be this other thing. You don't view it that way, but that's how it is. You spend this life trying to be this other thing, and until you realize that you have to accept that anxiety real part of you, you can't become stronger to it. You can't become who you are because you're trying to become this other thing that society wants you to be, rather than just allowing yourself to be. And yeah, it's part of who you are. But it's also, I was watching, good Lord, I dove into the kind of doing research for the show, trying to find how the show evolves. Right now that I'm starting to feel better and my eyesight's working on getting back, shows like this have to evolve. We never did, the traditional show development, right? It was, we just needed to express love and find love in our daily lives. And, during the time of a year and a half ago, 2 years ago it was now, right?
2 years, almost 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was the middle of a campaign season. It was, the world had started to go crazy. We'll just call it that. The whole pandemic start. And we needed love in our life, and we wanted to express it and share it because, far too many people were expressing the negative aspects of life. And so we did this show to make sure we had an outlet to continue expressing positive. But we didn't go through any show development. And so I was going on YouTube, seeing about what kind of stuff works and the kind of the relationship advice, whatever niche we find ourselves in. Because we find ourselves in, we don't have a niche. We're kind of a jack of all trades, which is a weakness and a strength, because our strength, it allows us to not become what apparently you have to do to feed the algorithms. Because we've talked about toxic masculinity, right? Not here, but there's conversations across the culture about toxic masculinity. Well, in the YouTube sphere, if you click the wrong couple, if you click a couple of these things, a couple of these, I don't know, dating help, men, women improvement channels, self-improvement channels, dating advice channels, that type of thing. There's an undercurrent of feminine toxic. I can't say that. Toxicity. Well, it's the male anyway. Toxic masculinity. Well, it's toxic femininity, right? It's kind of doing the other end. And they're having the same problem. They're not being nuanced enough. And it's kind of driving me crazy. And it's not just men. You think that it's just, men kind of complaining about women. You just kind of have women complain about men, kind of the same thing. But it's not. You've got women involved. You've got this whole goofy talking about high value men and high value women and what kind of person are you looking for, a high value. But value isn't necessarily, based upon economic value. They get their own strange term of value. And there's a lot of judgment in that space. And I'm not going to post any of the links like we normally do because I don't want to call any of these individuals out because I don't want to become that. But someone will post. What I found over the week was somebody will post an Instagram, TikTok, or something video complaining about their dating life, right? Or someone will call into a show like this or something, post a question about, I'm 40 years old. I'm leaving my husband just essentially because I'm bored. We've grown apart. I'm bored and I can do better. These kind of things. And then the response to it, okay, so that may be a toxic mindset or it may not, depending upon the depths of it, right? But they do exactly the same thing that the people who talk about toxic masculinity do. They paint broad brushes rather than dealing with the individual you're dealing with. Well, women like this. It's like, it's just like saying like men are toxic. It's like women are, young, attractive women have a lot of options, shall we say, right? Mating options, right? Attractive young women have no problem finding a mating option. Well, attractive but poor young man might have trouble finding dating options, or maybe not, depending upon. But that whole toxic nature of the dating atmosphere and the reviews of these people who are complaining about their lives. And maybe they're true. Maybe these people are complaining about their lives because they've spent their 20s, having a hookup culture, and now they're in their 30s and they want to settle down, and no one wants to settle down with them, and they don't know why. Well, part of the reason is you never developed any relationship skills. And so rather than saying, okay, well, let's sit down and develop some relationship skills, talk about what relationship skills haven't you developed? What are you actually looking for versus what do you think you want versus what do you actually want? Because a lot of it is just, you're not, when you're 20 and want to have fun, you're looking for something different when you're 30 and wanting a family. And you've got all this baggage from 20 years, from 10 years of hookup culture. And now you want to find somebody, a high value man, whatever the hell that means, or a high value partner, pick your side, it doesn't actually matter. A high value partner. But you've got, a body count of in the 20s or 30s, and now what are you going to do? Well, you have to find somebody else who has a body count in the 20s or 30s, but is also ready to move on, right? You can't be judgmental. But we live in a judgmental time, and it's a toxic thing, and I'm just glad we don't do that. Just these kind of the negative reviews of these things. We should probably do them. Oddly enough, we should probably sit down and do some of these reviews. I'll have to send you some.
Okay.
But figure out a way to do it, from a different aspect. Not where we're necessarily defending them, but where we're looking for positive ways for change, not just say, hey, look at this, ha, 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 avoid this type of women. Or look at this, these guys are toxic, avoid these type of people. Well, okay, but how do we help these people not become toxic? That's what we should be doing, not just telling people to avoid these people. We should be helping these people not to become toxic. Help these people to figure out, okay, what's wrong with your mindset that you keep making these type of mistakes, these simplistic mistakes. But instead, we've gone to, it's like Twitter culture in YouTube, dating, self-help. No wonder dating sucks. The people who you're turning to help you become better bachelors. Oh, I just mentioned one of the YouTubers, but sorry. But, you've got become better single people, better men, better women, but they're not actually helping them become better people. They're just telling you who to avoid. They're not telling you how to become a better you. They're just saying avoid these type of people. And you're not helping the dating situation. You're actually part of the problem. Those kinds of people are actually part of the problem. Because by pointing out, laughing at them, and criticizing them doesn't help. Okay, maybe it helps someone not date that kind of a person, but those people have value. if you dig beneath the superficial, if you can get beneath the superficial scabs that they've built from over the course of their lives, they're genuine human beings in there with caring and empathy. You just don't know how to access it. And rather than help people change their attitude, we point and laugh at them and say avoid them. And it's the toxic culture, and it's just, I'm glad we don't do that. But at the same time, that's what the YouTube algorithms want. And so I how do people who genuinely entered into the space wanting to help people, but if the algorithms and feed this kind of toxic, because I only clicked on 2, and next thing you know, my the suggestions filled with them, and it's filled with this continually the same mindset over and over and over again. And you can click on the other side and find the people who complain about toxic masculinity. It's just as easy, but where's the balance? I couldn't find the balance. I couldn't find other people like us trying to find a more balanced approach. I'm sure they're out there. It's just, for whatever reason, they're probably not very good at marketing because they're too honest and too genuine. And the people who are good at marketing say, well, this is what the algorithm rewards, so that's what I'm going to do. Man, it becomes this self-fulfilling thing. You can't even blame anybody for it because, these people are trying to make a living. And you genuinely want to help. But, it becomes this thing. Or in order to make a living, you have to feed the algorithms. In order to feed the algorithms, you have to do certain things and behave certain ways and put up certain kind of content and phrase the titles a certain way. And, toxic drama is, more instantly appealing than nuanced conversation. But nuanced conversation, as proven by people like Joe Rogan, have more staying power. You have more depth. Anyway, it's just, I don't know. It's, we're trying to, do into the dating advice thing, into the, the dating improvement, human improvement, self-help type thing. And it's like, man, it's just a toxic atmosphere. It's like, how do you do that without becoming toxic? And I don't know. Maybe stay on our jack of all trades type of thing and just become better at marketing. I don't know. Just because I don't want to become that. It's the same thing. It's the same reason I don't do all politics. It's the same reason I have this, it's because if you jump all into that sphere, into that niche, yes, you'll have more opportunity to be successful, but you also have more opportunity to lose your soul. And, and I don't want to lose my soul. I don't want to risk that. I didn't come here to do this to lose my soul. I came here to expand it, to become a better human being, not become a worse human being. So I don't know. I'm forgetting how to drink again over there.
Yes, I am.
All right. It's just so strange, It's just, I just don't know what to do with it. As you try to become successful on YouTube, you have to essentially become toxic or become unhelpful. Just, I could sit here and just spew word salad like the first 5 minutes where I was trying to kind of gather my thoughts. You either have to become toxic or, you're instructional videos. And we're not instructional videos. We don't do unboxing videos. We don't do, meaningless fun. And there's nothing wrong with meaningless fun, right? Bubblegum's perfectly fine. It's just not what we do. I'm not one of those who complains about, light entertainment. Light entertainment's great. I have no problems with it. It's just not what we do. So, I don't know. Having to move forward without losing your soul. I don't know. So, and it's a question. Why would people waste their time? A lot of people feel like, modern dating is just a complete waste of time. Because, is it because they don't know what they want to get out of it? Or it's because they don't know how to have a relationship? And at this stage, I'm old enough where I can say it's, my generation's fault. Whether my family and their, participates in that type of thing is not really relevant. It's my generation's fault. I'm 50. So these are the kids who are in their 20s and 30s. It's my generation. We raised them. What did we do? What did we do wrong? And it's not to blame ourselves. It's not sitting there to self-flag us about what we did wrong. It's so we can help them make different mistakes. Because we can help them not make those. They're just going to make different ones. It's just the way the world works, right? It's just parents make mistakes and generations make mistakes. They all do. You do the best you can. The problem is, you're raising kids for how the world is now, not how it is when they're going to be adults, because you don't know what the hell it's going to be like when they're adult. Of course, the problem is how you raise them is part of what makes the world
the way it is.
It's a devil brew, witch's brew, but it's our responsibility, and so it's our responsibility to help them. It's our responsibility to say, okay, we helped screw up this generation. It's our responsibility to help them help themselves through it. We can't hold their hands through it. That's not what we can do, but we can offer guidance. We can offer support. We can be the information booth. So, yeah, okay, when we did this, X, Y, and Z's happened. And it's true, the world is different today. The equation is different, but, you should still take that to mind. There's reasons past generations, didn't engage in hookup culture as much as they do now. There's valid reasons for it. There's reasons to caution against it. Emotional reasons, health reasons, all kinds of things. Intimacy is emotional. And if you have 20, 30 different emotional engagements over the course of 5, 6, 10 years, none of that, all of that can't be unemotional. There's cost to that. Maybe the cost is worth it. Maybe not. That's not for me to judge. But you should weigh them, or at least estimate them as best you can. Just saying. You don't have to be judgmental about saying that, it's hookup culture is dangerous to your physical and emotional being. It does not necessarily mean that I'm going to judge you for it. I'm just saying you should be careful in engaging in that type of culture because it can be dangerous to your emotional and physical well-being. So, yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about moving on. So, as the world walks around, we've everybody's kind of become tired of the disease that cannot be named, right? It's not hitting me. Stink. of that thing that cannot be named. Like, we've kind of moved on to it. Lots of people have moved on from it. But yet, I still go to the outdoor ATM over here, and there's still people wearing their masks. You go to the grocery
store, people wearing masks.
There's still people wearing masks, and I say, okay, I'm not that afraid, but other people are, and I'm okay with it. I don't judge them for it. But at some point, life has always been kind of dangerous. You always have been at the, touching something, breathing something, coming in contact with the wrong person. Lord knows, you know,
How you got hepatitis B? We still don't know.
still don't know. And so, you always kind of have that anvil sitting over your head. It's just we don't know about it. We don't think about it. We don't think about the flu. You can die from the flu. Anybody can. Mostly because you're not paying attention and you end up giving yourself pneumonia and that kind of thing. But so it's not that it's not dangerous. It's that at some point you have to put this into, the equation of, okay, it's an ordinary danger. Like we get into our car and drive, even though that's dangerous. We put on skis and ski down mountains, even though that's dangerous.
Jump out of airplanes.
We fly in an airplane. Pick your activity. There's lots of dangerous activities. Rock climbing, mountain climbing. Jesus, the most dangerous job in the world is like fishermen and loggers. Commercial fishermen and loggers, right? Because there's only so many safety things you can do. Unexpected things happen, in the open seas and in a forest full of trees with trees falling down, branches break off, land on people, and that's how people get hurt. And, oddly enough, logging drivers have a dangerous occupation as well, because you're taking this big, heavy load of logs down, barely passable dirt roads. And so, but yet people do this every day. We accept these dangers every day. There's people who work in hazmat and people who work in dangerous laboratories, and they take dangerous, dangers are a routine aspect of life. But how do you transfer? We've spent 2 years kind of huddled in your house, lots of people taking extreme measures. And if your anxiety, it can run the gamut, right? You can become so anxiety ridden, afraid of the germs that, you become OCD about it. Or you can be like me, you put on the mask and the mask drives your anxiety. So, it can run the gamut. So you've got 20% of the people who in some ways likely bouncing their anxiety off the walls, right? Because they don't have access to the normal routine. They're either afraid of the germs, the ever-present fear of the germs and death, or the mitigation aspects is clicking up some anxiety, having to wear a mask all the time, or having to, show a freaking vaccine passport to enter a building, and, whatever. All these extra tools are also anxiety-ridden events. And so for those of us who's, like for me, it's a relief to not have to wear a mask. But if you're somebody on the other side of the spectrum who's afraid of the germs and has severe anxiety based upon that, you're having a vastly different experience right now than I am. Right now, instead of feeling relief, you're actually more anxious than you were, say, a year ago, when you knew what to expect, what to do, even though you necessarily didn't, but at least you had a theoretical plan, right? Here's what I do to protect myself, and whether it was protecting yourself or not, at least it was comforting. You had steps to go through, and that's comforting for people. And I can get that. And that's why I get that people still want to wear masks. It's just at some point, you're going to have to get out the fear. You're going to have to step outside that fear and return to normal life, because you can't live like that forever. It's going to eat at your immune system. It's going to eat at your mental health. So what do you do?
Some people will need help.
Well, lots of people need help. I was talking to a therapist, and, the requests for therapy have shot up, doubled at least. And so you're having people who, didn't used to have emotional problems are now dealing with emotional problems. You used to have people who are dealing with emotional problems are now dealing with mental health problems. And people who are dealing with mental health problems are now dealing with more severe mental health problems, and a lack of access because you now have competition for the limited healthcare slots, the limited mental health slots. So, counselors and coaches, life coaches, even a simple life coach, just someone to talk to, someone to bounce your ideas off of, a priest, anybody.
I went to a nun one time.
Hey, when you're desperate, anybody who was kind and willing to listen is a line of relief, right? It's a lifeline. And there are lots of people who, when you're desperate, we've talked about suicide hotlines, but there's mental health hotlines now. That's the good thing about the modern age. The internet, there's an app for that. There's quite literally an app for that. So, and it's not that expensive now. So reach out to people. Search mental health hotline, and they'll give you the national number or the number in your area, and reach out to aspects, because a lot of people think it's weak to reach out for help, but it's actually strength. And it's not feeding anybody some, hippy dipsty goof for number. It's strength. Because you know how hard it is?
It's really freaking hard.
To reach out to people you don't know, to reach out and call a number. If it was easy, people would be doing it all the time. It's freaking hard. It's hard because you tell yourself it's weak. For whatever reason, we fight it. That second person inside of us, fights it because you're afraid of rejection. You're afraid of getting turned out from the tribe. But the tribe isn't going to turn you away. That tribe won't turn you away. The nice thing about the modern age is we have many tribes, and one tribe turns you away, there's another one that'll welcome you with open arms. And so you can find your tribe. We're no longer limited to what you can walk to. You can connect with people around the world in an instant. Your tribe doesn't have to be physically around you. Find your tribe. They exist. They'll help you become a better you. And we'll move on. All right. So what we got? Are you hanging out with us tonight, or are you going off to take your break?
I'm going to take my break.
All right. Oh, now you'll keep you for this next one. Let's see, I gotta find one. Go down to the bottom. No, that's bipolar. Here we go. My mom is 75% Jamaican and 25% Chinese. My dad is 50% white and 50% Portuguese. What am I? You're human. That's what you are. As someone who's raised in an interracial family and whose children and grandchildren are even more interracial, our families extend the globe quite literally. And, at some point we have to accept that what we are is human. And sure, we all have unique ethnic backgrounds, and our backgrounds have their own unique histories, their own unique tragedies, triumphs, and horrors. And we want to learn that, not to place blame, but so we can avoid it in the future. And we avoid that in the future by accepting that we're all human. What we all share is our humanity. Regardless of who you are or what you want to be, whether, the topics of the day, whether you're transgender or man, woman, not, non-binary, other, it doesn't matter. What we all are underneath all that is human. I'm human. The Lovey's human. We're all human. And the ethnic background of our forefathers is relevant in our personal stories, but it's not relevant in our humanity. And, we learn history to prevent the bad things and repeat the good things, not to place blame. So how do you deal with it? You teach them the personal histories, but you also teach them that it's humanity. They are people of the world. They are humans. Before they are Jamaican, Chinese, the laundry list of things, Before, they are human. Before they are Jamaican, Chinese, Portuguese, and white, European. Right? That's human. That's all that is. And when our societies and cultures can reach that point, a lot of this division can start to be focused on something else. Maybe things that are more important than our superficial looks and our distinct histories. We can start looking forward instead of back. But we're not there yet. Okay. So what we got?
My dad is 57 and I'm 12. It's embarrassing to tell my friends at school my dad's age while their parents are in their 20s and 30s. And my dad's still a fairly normal age to be a father.
Well, yeah, he's on the older side, but it's not unusual.
He's not 70. And a new father.
No, he was 45.
Yeah, a little later, but
it's on the it's probably on the edge of what we would call normal, but there's no such thing as normal, especially here in these United States. It's now feeling embarrassed as a 12-year-old, feeling embarrassed because your family is different than other families is actually quite normal. It's not that your father's old, it's that your father's different. But, it is neither good nor bad. It is neither normal or unnormal. It just is. As you become older and you get past the 12 thing and you get into 16, 17, it won't matter anymore. It's your age. You're noticing that your family's different and you're worried about being different. All families are different. And at this age, it's 12 is when you notice those differences. So instead of looking for what's different in your family, look at what's different in other people's family. And, enjoy the differences. Diversity is a strength, my friend. Diversity is a strength. But these feelings are perfectly normal. You'll go through it, and it just is what it is. And I know that's not very comforting for a 12-year-old, but that's kind of exactly the same thing I'd tell my kids at that 12-year-old. So, you're getting the same kind of answer. It's just is what it is. You'll adjust. Well, actually, what you'll do is you'll realize it's not important, and you won't think about it anymore. But, but I don't want to tell you that. So, All right. So what else?
my OCD got really bad last year and I developed a phobia of food. I thought all food was contaminated and eventually had to be fed intravenously due to not eating. Recently, I've relapsed and stopped eating again. Should I be concerned?
Yes. You should go seek help right now. You should talk to your doctor right now before it becomes worse. Eating disorders, eating problems, and OCD problems are bad whichever way it goes, whether it's, distasteful of food or, whether you have an unhealthy relationship with food, let's put it this way, is bad whichever way it goes. And not eating is actually worse than overeating. because if you overeat and then you have to go on a diet or something, you've got stores to work from, but you've got a habit of not eating enough. And so my guess is you don't have fat to burn. And so what's going to happen is your body's going to eat your organs faster. Let's be real. That's what happens. Once it no longer has fat to burn, it starts eating your organs and your muscles. It's got to keep your brain alive. That's what it protects. But, you have to deal with it. Do you really want, what else are you going to do? Do you really want to go back to being fed intravenously? Is that what you want to do? That's your other choice. You've been down this road before, right? You know where it's going to go. So now is the time to get help, not later. As for someone who comes from someone who waits way too freaking long as a habit, it's not a good habit to have. It's not. And I do it, so I understand it. I understand. I resemble this remark, not over food, but over seeking help in healthcare when I should. I resemble this remark. And all you can do is seek the help you need. You need it. And in fact, you need to, which is why you reached out to somebody to tell you no. You're just hoping someone tells you no. You don't have to. What we're going to tell you is, no, seek the help you need. You need it. Or else you wouldn't have asked the question. That's the truth. Okay. What else we got?
Before marriage, I agreed with my partner not wanting kids, thinking he will change his mind later. I skipped birth control and got pregnant. My husband is demanding a divorce. At any cost, I won't abort, nor will I let him go. How do I force him to stay?
Well, you can't. One, it's not actually about the child. It's about the dishonesty. Because if you'd have gotten pregnant, if you'd have been still taking your pill and gotten pregnant anyway, things like that happen. Trust me, I know. Birth control isn't 100%.
I'll say I got a phone baby.
But the fact is, you were dishonest with him, and so he can no longer trust you. And how do you get him to stay? Don't know you can. How do you build back that trust? I mean, for one, if someone tells you they don't want children, you have to believe them. This notion that, he'll change their mind later, maybe not. And you have to prepare yourself for the maybe not. So you went into this whole marriage with a dishonest mindset, and you're wondering why it collapsed. And I can understand the desire to have a child. I get it. But you should have had the conversation. And if it was a deal breaker, then it's a deal breaker. And you move on. Because that's what people do. Now you've got this big broken mess that you need to clean up with a child along the way. And it might not be able to be cleaned up. Best thing to do right now is to relieve the pressure. You want to slow walk the divorce. Okay. It's probably not the world's greatest idea, but okay. But relieve the pressure. Because the only way you're going to get him back is to rebuild the trust. And you're not going to rebuild the trust with games and strategies and all of that. You're going to have to rebuild the trust first by getting in touch with yourself, becoming honest with yourself, and then becoming honest with him over the course of time. You may have to get a divorce, and if you really want to, get married again later. You may have to go that far. Because, having an unwanted child happens. People get over it. And they become, good parents. The loss of trust, people have a harder time getting over. So it's just sad. I'm sorry. I really am.
That's a sad one, yes.
Okay.
My son is 6 years old and he keeps asking his dad to take a shower with him. When is it too old to take a shower with my son?
Well, when is it too old? I don't know. That's an individual answer. 6 is probably not too old, but my guess would be when he's old enough to take a shower by himself. I mean, it's just a body, right? It's just human bodies. He sees it. The human body shouldn't be a mystery. You don't want them to be ashamed or mystified with their body. Now, I get it. There comes an age where it's creepy, and you just and if you're feeling creeped out, then that's the age, right? That's the age you figure something else out. So maybe for you, this is the age. Maybe 6 is about the age for you. Other people, it's later, and that's fine. But, for me, it was when they're old enough to take a shower by themselves. Of course, we live in California where water rationing is a thing. And, one of the ways to conserve water is to shower with your children when they're young. Not when they're older, but when they're young. Well, actually, technically, you both get in the shower, you water down the kids, you wash them, you hand them to the other parent, and then you take your shower. It's actually what happens. But get them done real quick so you can actually take a real shower, right? It's in this house with all these kids, efficiency overcomes everything else. So get them done and out. And if you're actually that uncomfortable, if you're like me, you'll go in there with a pair of swimming shorts on and shower them and then finish your shower if they're old, if they've reached the age where it starts to feel weird. It's you. If you're starting to feel weird, it's about the time for you to figure something else out. But 6 isn't unusual. Yeah. So that's where I'd leave it. All right.
What should I do as a dad? My daughter told me she wants to move back into my house because she lost her job due to layoff and COVID-19 uncertainty. Should I allow her to come back? Job search could be 2 to 3 years. She's 23, an engineer.
Okay, why would a job search for an engineer be 2 to 3 years? It may be 2 to 3 years before she can rebuild herself and get back on foot, depending upon her credit situation and all that kind of stuff. She may have bills to pay off and all that kind of thing. The question becomes, should you? I don't know. That's up to you. Are you prepared for it? Is she a good house guest? There's all this various thing. Can you afford it? Do you have space? Now me personally, I probably would if I had room. But that's based upon my children. And, she's an engineer. She's 23 and an engineer. She's not a loafer, clearly. So why wouldn't you? Do you want her living in her car? I mean, because we live in California, and that's to happen. If she's living in her car, what's the chance of her getting a job? If she's having to apply for jobs on her phone, look for jobs on her phone instead of a computer. While it's possible, it's much easier to do it on a full-size computer. It's just, I don't know. I don't know if you should, but I would. Strongly consider it. Let me put it that way. Now, if you live in a 2-bedroom house and your second bedroom's your office and that's where you run your business from and you don't have the space, then you don't have the space. But if you're in a 4-bedroom house, it's just you and your wife and, and 2 of the bedrooms are empty because your kids have left and you haven't opened them in a year, well, maybe you should. What would you want to have happen? If you were 23, you just lost your job, and you're looking for some place to regain your feet in the modern world. This isn't the 60s and 70s. You know, they haven't built studio apartments in 30 years. Now, maybe we should argue that she should take something lower while she looks for something, an engineering job. Okay, that's a conversation you can have. Yeah. She's an engineer. She could probably get a job managing, a gas station or working at a grocery store or something while she tries to find her engineer job. Part-time. Make sure if you really want to do that, that's fine. Just find a solution, because what's going to happen if you don't? Just think about that one. Okay.
This one makes me mad. My husband sent my 7-year-old stepson to boarding school because I dislike him. However, he comes back for a month during vacation. How can I limit his vacation time as much as possible?
How about you go on vacation while he's gone, while he's at home? Because quite frankly, now, maybe there's a reason, right? Maybe he's a troubled child and is acting out because his parents have split up, and, of course, sending them to boarding school isn't likely to help, but maybe. But, asking your spouse to send their stepson to boarding school because you dislike them, even though I didn't say you asked. I just can't imagine.
Neither can I.
But, we know people who have had to send their children away to boarding school because they were just, didn't know what else to do with them. Right?
Unfortunately.
And, they turned out to be fine people, and the relationship as adults is perfectly fine. It didn't harm their long-term family relationships. And so, sometimes it works. And, but if it's just because you dislike them and he's not some otherwise a ne'er-do-well or malcontent or some other, if you're the reason he went to boarding school, you should be ashamed of yourself. Really. Just, you're a freaking adult. You can't learn to live with someone you dislike. I get it. If there's a drug problem or a causes issue all the times, and I can get it. If it was an extreme disruption to the family, I can get having the child sent off to boarding school. I can get it. But because the step parent dislikes them? Well, sorry. But on that one, the child is not the one getting booted from the house.
Totally.
So I'm gonna. That's the only reason I'm kind of throwing these caveats, is because I can't imagine why you'd choose a spouse over a child, a step parent over a child. I just can't imagine it. So maybe she's inartly phrasing something. This child is a disruption to the family. I couldn't take it anymore, and so his father decided to send him to boarding school. That's actually a different thing, right? That's a different way to phrase it.
Yes, but I would have tried counseling first.
Maybe they did.
All types of things. I just
Maybe
sending a child away.
I know. Maybe they did. It doesn't sound like they did because of the way it's phrased. But maybe but for the sake of benefit of the doubt, let's say they've gone through all that. And what she's just done is inartly phrased it. Okay? Now, I don't think so, because I think if you go through the process, you're phrasing it differently. But for the sake of argument, I can see how you can get there. Right? We can all see a child who, routinely breaks into people's houses, doesn't go to school, causes fires.
Yeah, but even if you had a child like that, I wouldn't have put you in that position. If I couldn't take it, I would have left.
Yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. So that's all I'm saying. There is that one caveat that there is an actual thing where it makes more sense, but she's just phrasing it inartfully. If I want to give her a benefit of the doubt, but frankly, I think you should be, if you asked your child simply because you dislike him, not because he was a massive disruption. Because I still think, did you actually say there's a massive disruption to the family? You mentioned what it is, right? In some way, rather than I just dislike them. You know, me and my stepfather didn't get along, but good Lord, I don't think they're ever talking to me about sending me to boarding school. Well, maybe they did talk about going to military. Nah, it was just they were really going to send me to military school.
Oh, you would have just blossomed.
Yeah, I would have escaped is what would have happened. All right, so can't keep me in, fuckers. All right, so what do you got?
My daughter won't let me inside her apartment. When I asked her why, she said I had no reason to. How do I make her understand that as her mother, there is no reason why I shouldn't be allowed inside? Dude, you are just barking up the wrong tree.
Well, the fact is, your attitude is why you can't go in. Now, maybe she's got a mess. You know, maybe she's cooking meth. Who knows? But but the reality is, my guess is she's just drawing boundaries because you have a trouble accepting them.
Not saying how old this kid is, but I'm thinking she just got her first apartment and it's hers, and she wants to establish boundaries with her mother.
Maybe it's a mess. Maybe it's just a mess. There's pizza boxes everywhere, and she just don't want to hear
She
shit.
don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, she just don't want to hear about it. Or maybe you're kind of an overbearing helicopter parent, and she's drawing boundaries because no, this is my space, and you're going to leave me the freak alone. Finally. It's one space where you don't get to intervene. Maybe she's sending you a signal that, it's time for you to have a different relationship with your daughter. It's time to have an adult relationship with your daughter and not a mother-daughter relationship with your daughter.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And it's a difficult switch, right?
It is a difficult switch.
Because you spent 18, 20 years, being one thing. And now all of a sudden you've got to be something else. And sometimes you're still raising other children. And so it's a hard switch to make, but it's time to do it.
You get to be cheerleader. That's your job.
Yeah. Take a different attitude and she'll let you back inside.
Yep.
Stop asking and she'll let you. All right.
My son, this is so sad. My son gets a slip home every day from his teacher that needs to be signed because he gets in trouble. Should I sit in on his class for a day?
No, you should take him out of class. Get him out of class and get him into an educational environment that better suits him. It's the wrong environment. Kids only get in trouble like that because they're in the wrong learning environment. That's it. Whether they have an anxiety disorder and they can't deal with all the noise, whether it's the teacher or the classroom or whatever it is, something is, and the only way to do it is sitting in to figure out, okay, what's the problem? It's just going to tell you what the problem is going to tell you what the problem is, maybe. But you don't need to sit in. Just ask him. He'll tell you. You may have to sit there and listen to a bunch of nonsense before you get to it, but he'll tell you. But my guess is it's just the wrong learning environment. Get him in one that's suited for him. Yeah, not everybody's suited for traditional schools. So, that's all. And he doesn't say he's getting suspended, so what kind of trouble he's getting into. I'm suspecting it's like anxiety and something, and with all the masking and unmasking and all, it's my guess is it's something like that. But, he got to spend the last couple of years in an educational environment that was more suited to him, and now he's got to go back into a classroom environment that's not, and he's rebelling against it. So find a different solution. Okay.
My parents say that I'm absolutely not allowed to discuss my childhood with my therapist. I want to be respectful for their wishes, but I don't trust them. What should I do?
Your relationship with your therapist is with your therapist. You tell your parents to go pound sand, or especially, yeah, sure, okay. And then you just go tell your therapist whatever you want to tell your therapist. Your therapist isn't going to go call and tell them. Now if you're a child and there was some child abuse or something going on, your therapist may, depending upon your state, be required by law to turn them in. But, well, maybe they should have behaved better. I don't know. And so maybe that is something you have to, discuss and decide if you want to go down that road on what you discuss. So be careful how you discuss it. But if you're an adult and you can discuss whatever you want without potential consequences, those kind of consequences.
That's the beauty of counseling. You get to say whatever you want.
Yeah, and the fact is that you don't trust the me's. Those are the conversations you need to have with your therapist.
Yeah, delve into this issue.
That's exactly the stuff you need to be talking to your therapist about.
I don't trust my parents.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, that's the stuff you need to be talking about. Yeah. So tell your parents to pound sand on that one. Yeah. Well, don't tell them to pound sand. Really.
Yeah, just tell them, yeah.
Yeah, just
do
tell
what
them.
You want.
Tell them, yeah. Do what you
You're
want.
An adult.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if you're not, if they're doing stuff, I'd do it anyway. And, consequences be damned because.
Yeah, that's their problem.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's, you have to, it's not an consequences for you. You have to deal with the legal system and all that stuff as well. So, you may want to be careful how you phrase things if you're still a child. But anyway, talk to your therapist about it. That's what they're there for. Quite literally. Okay.
Should I leave my job seeing that my fellow coworkers are being promoted? We've been here for a year, and I feel I work very hard, but they're the ones moving up the ladder.
Well, did you ask yourself why they're moving up the ladder? And hard work isn't the only reason you're going to get moved up a ladder. Is your work competent? Okay. Are you but normally when you move up, you have to have this thing called leadership skills. Have you improved your leadership skills, your interpersonal skills? Getting promoted isn't just about knowing your job, right? It's the soft skills. As the higher up you go, the softer skills become more important. The interpersonal skills, the leadership skills become more and more important. And so, improve yourself in that area and you'll see what happens. Okay, so we can get through these last couple. I did this 70.
You did the other one. Yeah. We only have one more.
Okay.
Do you believe individuals who suffer from things such as hypersensitivity, high-functioning depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, etc., have a harder time dealing with heartbreak, rejection, and breakups than the average person?
I think it's different. I don't know.
I don't know if it's harder.
Yeah, because I don't know what the other person's experiences are, so I can't tell you if it's harder or not. As someone with anxiety, I would, you kind of want to instinctively say yes, but rationally, I'd say no, it's just different. Our experiences is just different. It's not harder or easier. It's just different. Everybody has their, what is it? The Christians say everybody has a cross to bear, right? We all have the baggage from our lives that we have to carry around. And, that's what it is. And your baggage is different than mine. And an average person who doesn't exist, there is no average person. Can we be honest? There's no such thing. But, most people, when they deal with heartbreak, have a very difficult time. Regardless of whether you're bipolar or anxiety-ridden or normal. Because it's a trauma. It's like being stabbed in your emotions. Fundamentally, it's not much different than being stabbed, in your stomach, except that you're not bleeding externally, you're bleeding emotionally. And what do you do with that? You heal. You heal the best you can. Sometimes it's a Band-Aid. gallon of ice cream. Sometimes you just wait. We all have our different paths through it. We all have our different tools we use on the journey, but we all take that journey. Some of us are better at it than others. Some from experience, from learning. Some of us are more hard-headed than others. It takes more time to learn. I resemble that remark. So, but it doesn't make it easier or harder. It just makes it mine. Our journeys are what make us unique, and that's uniqueness makes us us. We are an accumulation of ourselves and our journey. If you find someone that loves that, hold on to it. Don't toss it away because you're bored. Maybe become a more exciting person. If you're bored, don't blame your partner.
Maybe you're the one who's bored.
So for me and Lovey, we want to thank you for joining us. We want to remind you to love yourselves and love everybody.
Good night.
Where's my button? There it is.